Alrighty, here we are. Welcome everybody. Let's go. So, welcome back. We're gonna do another live streaming mastering session tonight. Cool thing is we worked on a song in the last episode, the last session, and I've got another song that belongs to the same EP. And the artist let me, work on it live again. So it's gonna be cool because we're gonna integrate it into an existing project. So last time we did the mastering of the song, you see marked red, the red clip on the screen now. And this was the original earlier song that also belongs to the same EP. So it's a bit of a story, a continuation of a story. So we're gonna work on this one today, the blue one. And just to be clear, again, this is the song that we're gonna master. This here above, this one that I'm clicking on now, this is the same song, pre-master, but I normalize it to 0 dBFS. So to be able to listen to the mix at the maximum possible level without artifacts, without distortion, without doing anything on the mix besides gaining it up a little bit. And this is our channel that we're always going to keep there to be able to A/B and compare how it was and how it becomes, because we know that by now, a really good practice when mastering, when actually doing audio in general, is to be able to reference, so to be sure that you're not deviating, from the original idea, from the vibe of the mix, and more importantly, to be sure that you're not doing more harm than good. So I would say, first of all, together we're going to take a listen, and normally when I take a listen, the first thing I do is I write down first impressions, and also we're going to listen to the unmastered, pre-mastered version, normalized to 0 dB, so we're going to have, the full mix experience. Let's go. All right, all right, all right. So a little couple things already. A little anti-phase break, and also at the very end. So then moments where normally in the mix you have elements that sits tightly in the middle, so they occupy most of the phantom stereo image, phantom center image, pardon me, so the mono signals. And often you have stuff in the stereo field, and most of the time you might have elements that are a little bit strongly in anti-phase, meaning that the correlation between phase and left, the phase correlation between left and right channel, it's a bit off. So you see what happens here at the very end when I play back a little bit from here. As soon as the beat stops, as soon as the elements in the mix that sit in the middle stop happening, you're left with those sounds, and therefore the phase relation between left and right can shift. You could see that on this meter called Corello meter, which is actually a Voxengo free plugin. It's a very interesting plugin. Besides, you can see that on any correlation, phase correlation meter, there's several of them, depending on which DAW you use. But the Corello meter is very interesting because it will show you phase relation left-right also per frequency. So it's some sort of spectrum analyzer, but it analyzes the phase correlation between left and right, so you can really pinpoint positions in the spectrum where things go out of phase left and right. And you could see how it goes completely negative at the very end. Typically speaking, this is like delays or pads that feature a phase rotation between left and right. So if you have a sound, for example, you have a sound in the middle, it hits you in the middle, but it goes into a delay, and the delay generates a tail that is left and right out of phase. If there is only delay left, obviously it will go left and right out of phase. Per se, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're dealing with purely digital stuff like digital mastering, for example, for streaming, or digital for playback, it can handle it. But if you're dealing with vinyl mastering, it could be an issue. It could be an issue. Not given there is an issue, but it could be an issue. Generally speaking, also, as long as the phase is coherent, as long as you have this strong picture in front of you and there is not too much stuff going on, left and right anti-phase, it's also a better listening experience. Now, the more experienced you are as a producer, and mixing engineer, the more you can manipulate these and exploit these, especially when you want to intentionally give the feeling that things are moving sort of around you. Because as the phase relation between left and right rotates to the point that it's completely out of phase, phase reversed, sort of, 180 degrees, you will feel like the sound is kind of around you, rather than coming clearly from, the front of you. So, something we can check, there's ways to correct this, we'll see this later on. So, the first thing I'm going to do now is hook up my outboard, and I'm going to create a hardware loop. So, I'm going to send this channel out of the computer through the outputs, depending where your converters are plugged in. My converter is plugged in on 7 and 8, and this is my print 0863 channel. So on this one, I'm going to pick up the signal from the relative inputs. At this moment, I'm going to switch camera 1 sec. At this moment, in this camera, in the side camera that I've got hooked up, I wanted to focus today on the EQs. But on that side, the side you cannot see on camera, there's the converters. And at the moment, I'm using a set of converters, and the output is on 7/8 and the input is on 3 and 4. I could choose, for example, another input if I wanted to audition another converter. A lot of mastering engineers do that. They have a series of converters, maybe like 2 or 3 converters even, because maybe one sounds really, really transparent, one sounds a bit more colorful, one emphasizes the lows, one is crystal clear, you name it. It's also a matter of taste as well. But I've got my converter of choice, which is a Lavry Gold, and it's beautiful sounding. It sounds very musical. Plus, it has this soft clipping thing going on, so you can push it a little bit. The other option would be the head Crane Song, which is also a really standard, very good converter. So, but generally start with this one. So I got it hooked up here. So at this moment, this is the workflow. This is the signal path. This channel has plugins, which is going to load on, sends out the signal out of the computer through the converter into the rig. The rig comes back into the computer via the other converter and is captured on this channel. So in order to hear it, we need to monitor the input. switch playback, so we're listening now to the mastering channel and not the pre-master or A/B channel. And as you can hear, if I don't monitor the input, I hear nada. So I wrote down a couple of things that I thought about, you know, starting to address. It felt the bass part was a bit soft. We're gonna see if we can fix it with EQ or maybe with some artificial intelligence. Yeah, stereo field to check what's going on. There's ways to check that. Linear interface in the break, the hi-hat perhaps, but overall I didn't hear issues in this mix, like particular issues, you know. It seems okay, decently balanced. We can open it up, we can pump it up. Conversely to the mix we worked on last time, which had a bit of an unbalance between kick drum and everything else, so we needed to fix that first. Here we can not just now focus on these little things that I heard at the beginning and then give it a nice touch and pump it up, you'll see. So first thing I'm gonna load is an EQ, and this is always the EQ I start with. It's a parallel EQ. It's a particular EQ. It helps to rebalance the spectrum in a way that only parallel EQ can do. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually also pump up a little bit the listening. The pre-master, as you can see here, it was pumped up 60 dBs when I normalized the waveform. So it means that we got 60 dBs of headroom before anything starts to either clip or distort or anything really happens to the file. So I could pump up 60 dBs here, but I'm gonna just add the gain on the mastering console. I'll switch camera for this one. There you go. So you can follow me 1 second on this one. I can enable the gain, and I can now pump up like steps of half dBs. So I can just pump it up while it's playing. I'm gonna do it while it's playing. This is just to enter the ballpark where things when we A/B are kind of similar sounding, and then probably most likely along the way I'm gonna tweak it, you know. So also because now I talked in between, but normally what I do is listen to a pre-master, normalize, then switch to the mastering, and I don't want to have that drop in loudness because that affects your hearing. Every time you hear things differently loud, there's something that happens to it the way we hear. Just Google ELC curves, equal loudness contour curves, ELC, and you will find plenty of information about it. So 60 dBs of gain, here we go. The first thing I'm gonna try to address is the hi-hat. Okay, a bit better. You could hear how much difference it makes when you rebalance stuff and then you gain up a little bit to keep the gain staging intact. So without EQ sounds in a way. With EQ and a little bit of gaining, just a dB, everything opens up, and there's two reasons why. The first is that I controlled a little bit the highs that seemed a bit over-present. The second is that I reduced the balance here, a couple of dBs, in the mid-range. And when there is an imbalance of energy in the spectrum, that things don't sound exactly balanced, what happens is that our ears tend to be, and the way we perceive the whole spectrum tend to be masked by the energy of the other parts of the spectrum. So let me explain this a bit better. What happens is if there is concentrated energy on a certain specific part of the spectrum, it tends to cover everything else. So when you remove that energy and then you compensate with the output, so pretty much what you remove is restored in terms of overall loudness, everything opens up because all of a sudden everything seems to be more balanced and you hear everything better. That's the idea. So what I did in this case was to cut a little bit in the mid-range where that sound particularly hits you. And it's also a frequency, 1480, so it's about a kilohertz and a half, where we are really sensitive. Again, check ELC curves. Our hearing is very sensitive to the mid-range, so if there is too much energy there or concentrated energy there, it tends to prevail over everything else. So fixing resonances, for example, or rebalancing the spectrum in this way already helps to get a bit, toward a clearer sonic picture, like a clearer experience. So at this point, let's try the bass. But the bass I'm gonna try to do with I'm gonna switch camera again. I'm gonna show you once again on the EQ because the camera, I always forget that. So let me show you again what I just said about the EQ. So EQ on, EQ off. Nice. So again, to show you, so mid-range here, about 1.466 kilohertz, top end on this one, output gain here. And the idea is that you will not hear the sounds you were tweaking to be modified, but rather everything else. All right, so focus with me again once more. No EQ. Again, subtle difference, because we're talking about dB, a dB and a half, so nothing too massive, but that's a bit the idea, with mastering. You do little steps accumulated toward the end product, which should be, a much better version of the mix, if there is room for improvement, of course, because sometimes you receive a mix that it's so good that there's not so much you can do about it, or that you want to do about it, which is another way to get experience. Like a proper experienced mastering engineer will also know when there is absolutely nothing to do on the mix, because it's already awesome, in simple words. So, talking about bass, I started to use this EQ lately, not bad at all. It's a bit like Pro Q, really. Some say it's a bit of a rip-off, this and that. Well, they did actually quite, copy the interface, but it comes with so many other features, so it's actually worth giving it a go. And on this one, I'm going to try now to identify what frequency brings us the bass a bit closer to us, because it feels a bit weak in the mix. So let's try again. It helps particularly in this production because it's a repetitive loop, so there's not so many notes that the bass is, you know, taking. So we kind of found the edge of it, but there is also kick drum there. So let's see what we can do about it. And we are clipping the output. So classic, because we started with not so much headroom. We started with 60 dBs of headroom before I would clip the output into the gear. So we need to compensate. So normally, you know, there's ways. I normally just cut with the fader. We got 60 dBs of extra headroom now, which means that now we're going to hear 60 dB softer. But it's okay because I can restore for now, just because I want to be transparent, I'm going to restore 60 dBs there. Although this brings us already into clipping the output, so I think that, you know, we could already start by dropping here a limiter. Without really doing anything on the limiter, just have it there and keep a look at it, so to be sure that it's not, you know, just to be sure to monitor what it's doing. So a little click there. Let me take a look. I'm gonna isolate this bit. I found that this is the best practical way to do it. Create a quick clip and then just open it real quick in Isotope RX, which is gonna automatically load. It's a shortcut from Logic. There you go. There's a little bit of dirt going on there. Let's see if we can just remove it with some declicking. There you go. Let's save, quit, and Logic will automatically reload the same bit. There's another one. So same thing, isolate a section, convert to an audio file, save it, load up your shortcut, which will automatically load Isotope RX. Load that beat that we're working on. There you go. Now, by experience speaking, I could hear it already a couple of times, so maybe it's gonna be all over. So another good practice is to just load the whole file into RX and just go through it the first time to see if there's issues like this. Although, in all honesty, sometimes these issues become way more apparent after you start doing your mastering work. So at the beginning, maybe, I don't know, different schools. I do it most of the time. This time we just started right on. But I can tell you for sure that once you lift the levels, make everything clearer, everything more open, these little imperfections come out a bit more easy to hear. Okay, in the meantime, let's review the EQ. Now I'm gonna just work a little bit on it and then take a break and explain. one more click, fix. Got the Mali going. Found another click, so it's quickly fixing it. There you go. Yeah. We got the Mali, you can hear the Mali does something very special to the sound. It smoothens out a bit everything because of the transformers at the output. Mine is hooked up with the balanced output, so the transformers. And it gives you this texture because of the tubes, of course. And also it's a passive design, so basically when you boost a lot, it rebalances everything. It's very particular. Plenty plugins, you know, that emulate the thing. I've got a few. Got the Universal Audio, but there is another one, I think, from Pulsar or another brand. But the real deal is the real deal, also because different tubes, temperature, and we can go on talking about it for a long time. But I just love it, and let me listen. Let me let you listen to the difference again. So number 3 here. Switch camera. Number 3. This is the Manley. So when it's disengaged, it's not in the signal path. But as soon as I engage it, it kicks in. So let's take a look. Nice. Okay, so let's add a bit of groove. I'm gonna do it with the red compressor. It's not, you cannot see it in the camera as for now, but because I want to add groove after the Manley. So this red compressor is a Fute, and I'm going to try to get it going a little bit like this, enhance a little bit the groove. I don't really need to compress per se with this stuff. I mean, it sounds pretty already tight, but I'm gonna try to give it a little bit of that pumpy groove, right? So let's try. You know what, we should probably go through the whole file at this point because I hear a lot of these clicks. Also, at this point we're gaining up a lot through the chain, so I need to compensate here, otherwise we're pushing to the limiter too hard. I mean, just to be clear, this is gonna belong to the same EP, so it has to sound, this song has to sound coherent with the others, so we can take a quick listen to the others. So you see the average LUFS hits around 8, a bit more, but the most important thing is that they sound good together, not much the LUFS. The LUFS is a good indication on the ballpark of the loudness you want to be, but eventually, you know. On a first comparison, we can get it to sound a little clearer and maybe the impression of loudness a bit more. Not really louder, but the impression of loudness. So let's see what else we can do. Compression. 5 kilohertz give it a nice open touch. Let's see if I have 4 notes. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna add something extra. So what we're listening now, when I switch on the phase against mono mode here, it's just a stereo information. We to clean up a little bit the low mids, I think, of the stereo. So I'm gonna switch the Manley into mid-side. There's a mid-side encoder built into this transfer console, the Manley backbone. So all of a sudden the Manley massive passive is sent sum here and difference on the other side. So what I want to try to do is identify a little bit of mid-range, low mid-rangey peak in the stereo formation. Let's see. go to a section of the song that is the busiest. All right, so let's see 1 second, because I still miss something when I'm doing the A/B. So that's why the A/B is so important, because you have to be sure that when you A/B against the pre-master, you're on the right way. And I like the overall tone, but we seem to have lost a bit of power. So I need to check the chain to understand where mostly we are removing that power. So I'm going to go bit by bit, so step by step, to try to identify where that happens. Break, so let's keep. Now it's a great time to check on headphones. 1 sec. We're almost done. There's a couple more things that we wrote down at the beginning, which were the anti-phase breaks, stereo field. I sorted. Let me switch on the camera. Stereo field. I sorted it by using mid-side encoder on the console, bit of EQ on the mid-side, and a little bit of compression. Well, I didn't do any compression in the sum. I just compressed a little bit the sides, and I gained them up some dBs to get the stereo field a bit more under control, a bit more audible. Hi-hat is sorted. There was some re-leveling to do, because what's important to keep in mind always is that it's the sum of the processing of all the pieces that you have in the chain. So you start in a way, you add stuff, and then you correct, and you adjust this, adjust that, until you find the right balance between all the parts. So eventually the result is good. Check what's gonna anti-phase here. Let me show you how to fix this. So I'm gonna switch logic to the panning. I'm gonna switch it from balance, stereo balance, to dual mono, something that, for example, in Pro Tools is standard. And then you can automate the main spread. So in the sections where things are quieter, particularly when there is not strong sum or center information, we can restrict that a little bit, like make it a little bit more narrow. Still some edge that I want to remove. 1 second, just give me a sec because it's bothering me. Kirchhoff. There's something there. Let's see if we can remove some energy and restore that movement with the dynamic section of the EQ. Resonance. Clean up those resonances that are kind of heavy on the earring, and as a result everything is a bit more groovy, at least as my impression goes. So centering here of the stereo image, and check it out. So what's gonna happen here. And then toward the end, just before it drops back in, this particular section here, we could kind of needs to be a little bit earlier. And also here. Still going there in anti-phase, so we can give it a little bump. Okay, it needs a little more, I think, so like this. Right, sort. You see, so just a bit of automation helps right here. Now I'm gonna do a passage of the song to check all those clicks, and for the rest, we're kind of done. I want to do one check on headphones. My trusty Phonon, great stuff. Japanese. Headphones are very particular thing. I mean, I tried a lot of headphones, and these ones were the ones that you put them on and you're like, okay, this is it. Like I like them the way they present the music. No correction plugin, no EQ correction plugin needed, no extra stuff. Just plug them in. Because I do a lot of production too, so it's handy to have headphones that you can just plug in anywhere, your phone, your mixing console, your synth, your computer when you're producing, which give you the same sound all the time. Also because I've got the speakers for like high quality, high resolution, linear reference sound. These are more for like the headphone experience and also to check the bass. So let's go. Gonna do a little bit of A-B. I'm gonna add another stage of compression, see if I can get to the right punch that I have in mind. All right, Unison for the win. Great plugin compressor. This is like, yeah, I mean, for the ones of you that who don't know this, one of the best compressors you can find in the box. It's unique. It's capable of a million sounds. It's super complex when you edit the style, like because it can do anything compression, pure compression. So no expansion, no fancy trickeries, no multiband, no stuff like that. This is just a compressor, mastering compressor. which can sound in a million ways, but most of the time it sounds awesome. I mean, and the way I tweaked it was to get a little bit more of the punch and overall gain some dBs, not many, but 0.3, but also it's mixed, not 100%. And the gain reduction limit helps it to keep it under control, although not pretty necessary in this particular case, the gain reduction limit. But definitely, you know, fine-tuning the threshold, the ratio, and the gaining, it just gives that feeling of extra compactness to the music. Now, last but not least, I want to do a passage to check for all those clicks, and then we're going to be able to print it. So let's do this together, this final step together. Just go on your headphones. So why not use stage 1 to correct the phasing? Because you would use stage 1 to correct the phase for other reasons, when the material is more complex or when a lot of stuff is happening. In this particular situation, we really needed to just check those two moments with the break. So automating the pan pot in that way kind of helps to get it just done real quick and without surprises, because stage one will do stuff on the sound, so you have to pay particular attention that you're actually benefiting rather than not, diminishing. So play it safe. This happens a lot of the time, so I know that that solution works, and you see you saw it took like a few seconds. So it was good to just do it that way, in my honest opinion. So the break didn't have any clicks, as far as I know. Let's just keep on the beat again. I don't even think that actually clicks, it's just part of the music, but it creates a bit of sense of unease there. One more. There we go. See, there are several. I think it's something with the samples that it just repeats regularly. It's kind of every, what is it, 8 bars. Count again, probably. Did I miss one? Not sure. Almost there. All right, that's it. Cool. So I'm gonna print this, and to print it, I'm gonna disengage the plugin sitting on the print channel, the loudest this can go. By the way, the loudest, this one, guys, free plugin from Good Hertz, great company, this one, Good Hertz. And this one is a free plugin, and it's basically a gain, trimming plugin, but it gives you the LUFS integrated, also the history of the LUFS, and it has an automatic function that you can use to match the LUFS, and it will adjust the gain accordingly. Plus, you can do all sorts of stuff left to right. You can phase reverse one channel, you can solo one, you can adjust the fine tuning. If there is a bit of an imbalance left and right, this will kind of help you to identify it and fix it if you want. Similar indeed to the DMG track control. Similar concept. They're just utilities, but they're very well done. Track control has other features which I like a lot. The panning, you see, you can do that. Panning that we implement in Logic, you can do it inside this plugin, and they're both free. So nice stuff. So one last thing that I want to check is the center. 1 second here. So there seems to be low-end information, very subtle low-end information also in stereo. Why the general misconception here is that I should fix it. I'm not going to do it because the kick is nice and powerful in the center, and the bass moves around, and anytime this is going to be cut on vinyl, the vinyl cutting engineer will take care of it. So there is no guesswork to be done on our end. So it sounds good, sounds fat, centered, kick drum is there, so I won't touch that particular part of the program. So while I'm going to print this, I'm going to recall a software called Session Recall. This thing right here. So I can write the settings. So while I'm printing, I normally do that. And generally, by the time that I'm done writing the settings, the print is done, so it's a great way to use the time. One last thing I wanted to check was during this break, although I'm pretty sure this is material. There was this dirt a bit, but I think it's part of the samples that one, so I'm gonna just take a quick listen. Yeah, this one. I won't touch it. I think it's also what we actually clean up, but it disturbed me more there. Here it's just part of the color, so I'm gonna leave it there, touched. And that's it. So print file is done. Enable the plugins again. Do your fades. There you go, and then bounce out the file, and off you go. This is your master file. So I'm generally going to bounce it out at 2496, which is the session sample rate. And then from that one, I'm going to derive all the other versions, 1644, 2040, 2448, 2444, depending on MP3, you know, whatever the artist needs. So that's it. I would like to thank you for following me again, and this is going to be on my YouTube channel, so it's visible for the future for any one of you that wants to take a look again. That's it. Thanks for following me. Have a great night, and I will be seeing you in the next episode. All right. Bye-bye. Here we go.